Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Please hit the like, share and subscribe because it really helps. On the Dark Goddess, we're now on Circe, and I love Circe as a goddess. She's a goddess of magic in ancient Greek mythology, and her personalities and attributes reflect the common ideas pertaining to witchcraft. She was definitely well practiced in the art of using herbs for magic and healing. Circe is also seen as a moon goddess and a goddess of degrading love. Circe in mythology was the daughter of Helios and Perse. In some accounts, she's known as the daughter of Hecate. Just depends. Circe appeared in many ancient Greek texts. Hesiod's Theogony, the description of Greece, that was by Pausanias. The Liber and the History by Diodorus Siculus. The most well-known account of Circe comes from Homer's The Odyssey. According to Homer, Circe controlled the forces of creation and destruction with the mere braids of her hair. She is my favourite goddess. It's believed that Circe took residence on an island, and this island, it's a fictional island, after being exiled by her father in the island of, now it can be pronounced in a few ways, Aia or Aia. It just depends how it's pronounced, but it's A-E-A-E-A. So, however you want to pronounce it. There she built her own palace. She developed her sorcery skills. And there are very few explanations as to why she was exiled. The most common was said that she murdered the Prince of Colchis, who at the time was her husband. Very few dared to venture to Circe's island, because Circe would cast spells on her visitors, transform them into animals. So she lived alone on the island with docile animals who were once humans, victims of her magic, it is said. While returning home from the Trojan War, it was Odysseus and his men that landed on the island, and the men split into two groups. The first group of men, led by the warrior Eurylochus, went to explore the island, while the second group stayed at the shore with Odysseus. The first group came across Circe's palace. She invited them inside. She offered them food and drinks. They consumed it. They were then turned into pigs, but Eurylochus escaped and informed Odysseus about what happened, and Odysseus decided that he wanted to save his men. When he was on the way to Circe's palace, the messenger god Hermes had revealed to Odysseus the antidote to Circe's magic, a magical herb called moly. And that's what Odysseus used. He didn't turn into a pig despite eating Circe's enchanted food. He then persuaded Circe to release the spell and restore his men to their original form. Afterwards, the men enjoyed their stay on the island so much that they spent a year there. When it was time to leave, Circe gave them advice on how to avoid dangers. Circe had 3 sons with Odysseus: Andreas, Latinus and Telegonus. There's another story to this. I'm going to tell it you. If you are triggered by stories that are upsetting regarding sexual assault and such, please do not listen from this point, because it does involve a little bit of this, but it's a different version of the story. So Circe was condemned to Aya because she was part goddess, but not completely full goddess, because she was part witch, and they were scared of witchery. She seemed to have some sort of power that made the gods fear. So Zeus did exile her to Aia, or however you want to pronounce it. And on that island where she was sent to, She did have animals. They weren't humans, but they were animals, and she got on very well with the animals. She had wolves padding about. She used, she had a loom, and she just gained her knowledge upon her herbs and everything, and kept herself to herself on this island. Now, when the teams found the island from the Trojan War, Odysseus was not the first to arrive. It was his other group of men, and she trusted them, and she let them in. And they attacked her and degraded her because she was a woman on her own. But I will put it like this: only one got the upper hand and tried to attempt to sexually assault her, because she did turn them into pigs with her magic, and all it required was one word. You see, she did enchant their food with something that would turn them into pigs, but she didn't need to use it if they were nice to her. If they were decent people, she wouldn't use it. Of course, these were not. And they did look at her with that look, and one of them pinned her up against the wall, and he was going to sexually assault her. And she turned them all into pigs. So when Odysseus did finally arrive, he did realise that probably the pigs were the men. For some reason, he knew this, but for whatever reason, Circe and Odysseus ended up falling in love. Odysseus was married back in his home place where he lived. They had one son, Telegonus, and unfortunately, he didn't really get to spend time with his dad or anything like that because he went back home. Now, as Telegonus got older, he decided he wanted to go looking for his dad, but there were trials and tribulations along the way, and that's because Circe had turned her cousin into a somewhat hydra creature that lived in the water, and they had to pass her and things like that. But he eventually got past her. They did all they could, and he got to his dad. And unfortunately, the blade that was used to poison the beast serpent accidentally ended up touching his father, and that killed his father. Then Telegonus brought back his dad's wife and son to Circe, who took them in open arms, and eventually they got to know each other, and they got on very well. And in an unlikely event, Telegonus ended up staying with his stepmother of his father, and Circe's mum left with the father's son, and they ended up becoming a couple. And she did a spell and drank a magic potion to make her nothing but mere mortal, so they could live the end of their life together as normal people. But that's a different story. None of it's true. It's just myth, but I wanted to share the other side of that story that I've heard. So Circe was described as a fair-haired goddess. Usually she had a wand or a staff, and she could transform her enemies into animals. She's eternally young and beautiful, has the ability to shapeshift, and can appear in any form that she so chooses. Her colours are black, white, red and gold. Her plants are the oak, mandrake, the willow, and enchanter's nightshade. Animals are pigs, lion, wolf and falcon. Her symbols are the ocean, a wand, a rod, and the wind itself, because she controls all that moves, obviously, like the wind and stuff like that. She controls all this. So I like Circe. She is one of my most favourites. And you can work with her when you're wanting to learn about herbs or magic and things like that. She's definitely one of the goddesses that's strongly associated with magic, witchcraft. The things that she enjoys are bay leaves, lavender, belladonna. She's more of an original witch, so that in her can come through as an almighty sort of ally when it comes to learning witchcraft. You can call to her for cord cutting, root cutting, toxic relationships, herbalism, healing, because she's the queen of herbs, potion making, because she's very skilled even in the more advanced potions. Always leave her some of your potion though, just to say thank you. That helps a lot, obviously. It's important to leave her something behind, but she's my favourite, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding her, but yeah, those are the different stories and stuff associated with Circe, and she's definitely one to work with regarding the craft. Thank you for listening, and many blessings.